Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. If you are somebody who has said, I'd like to publish a book, I can't do that. Yes, you can when you have somebody to walk that journey with you. Lots of publishing companies out there, but very few that take a personal approach and truly walk every step of the journey, from editing, from promoting the book, from marketing it, to the cover, to the editing and all of that. That gentleman is Mark Pogodzinski from NFB Publishing, who joins us once again. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Real good. We've met a lot of interesting, fantastic people who have written books, and that we're going to do it again today. Who do we have?
So we have Mr. Cory Allen, who wrote a memoir about his time as a Secret Service agent during the Obama administration. And rather than me talk about someone else's work, it'd be best that he talks about his own work.
Beautiful. Cory, welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Never met a Secret Service agent before. It's a first.
No, you have.
Wow. So many questions, even that in itself, as we look at those who are there to protect. What got you into that field? Before we even get into the book, I'm just, fascinated by that line of work. What even brought you there?
Yeah, I was meandering about in my youth, looking for direction and discipline. I ended up going into the military, which made me realize I thrived in that environment. So then I came back home and ended up working for a police department in the community where I grew up. And then I finished my bachelor's degree, and I always knew I wanted to go federal. I felt my ceiling was a little bit limited within the sheriff's office community, promotional wise, and I just wanted to travel more. So I started applying to the FBI and the Secret Service. Secret Service picked me up first, sent me to Miami, and then that's what kicked off my federal law enforcement career. And of course, while I was in the Secret Service Academy, the FBI calls me, offers me a job. But at that point, the ship had already sailed. So I stuck with the Secret Service for about 10 years.
Wow. Again, we're getting to the book in a moment, but just to give us the background on that particular line of work, what was the most challenging and fearful situation you've ever been in along the way? Does anything stand out for you?
As far as a Secret Service agent?
Exactly.
Aside from being gay and a Secret Service agent and being fired and the threat of being fired and being openly discriminated against, and having to live two lives, really, as a Secret Service agent, I had to hide who I was in order to succeed in that career at that time. But professionally, threat-wise, sorry, there's a cat in the background. Nothing jumps out at this point because we did at the time a really, really sound job it's layers of an onion is the best way to think of it, threat-wise. And so you have local police, you have security officers on the outside, and as you work your way in, then you get to the nucleus, which was us Secret Service agents, to make sure that those real threats don't get to us. Because if it ever got to me and I was assigned to Barack or Michelle, we've got real problems. And as we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania last year with the shooting of President Trump, complete and utter failures on that regard. So thankfully, nothing like that happened on my watch. Of course, now I get called to talk about those things for media companies, but I digress.
So this book is really a personal account of your work as a Secret Service agent in the Obama administration, the things you encountered, the struggling, with you being gay, and like you just said, living two lives, discrimination. Walk us through that journey. Where do you want to begin with that?
Man, it started early. As soon as I got to Miami field office is where I was originally assigned, fresh out of the gate, and they all knew, the high-level supervisors in that office knew I was gay before I ever stepped foot in the office, and I had no idea. So coming into it, I'm just hyper masculine, and it's law enforcement. That's just the arena that's in, and I'm not effeminate. I don't believe in many ways. So it was easy to pass off, and that still happens to this day. People don't know, and that's fine. Who cares? But then it was immediate, within a few months of getting to the Miami field office, I was sent to the airport squad, which is this squad of retired agents, almost retired, and we only did protection and mail intercepts of drugs and counterfeit at the airport versus being with the main office and my peers. And it wasn't until we were out on a campaign trail about a year or so later that I was told that the special agent in charge of that office said, I don't want that F word in my office. And then that's what led to them throwing me out to the airport squad. But as I only knew best, I had to hunker down, prove myself through my work, and prove them all wrong. And eventually I had a supervisor about a year later realize, oh, Cory's doing a really great job. I want to pull him back to the main office. I want him in my squad. And then thankfully that boss took a chance on me, and I proved him right and had a knockout multi-million-dollar counterfeit case that was super complex, federally charged, prison sentence, and all that good stuff. So I just hunkered down as I had done from my military career forward of, okay, yeah, I'm gay, but that's not like everything there is about me. Like I'm gonna prove you wrong, and I did. And so it wasn't until Supreme Court started ruling in our favor 2013 and 2015 that I started to get more comfortable. And then I had protections, being on probation for 3.5 years as a Secret Service agent. You could be fired for any reason, straight up. And I didn't have those protections, but once I crossed over that 3/120 is what we called it, then I was like, okay, well, now you can't fire me because I'm gay if you find out about it. So then I started to relax a little bit. And when I got assigned to the Obamas, 2016, right as they were coming out of the White House, I was surrounded by amazing people, my peers, they became my family. And at that point, I felt way, way more comfortable and safe to talk about my personal life. And and then I just continued to grow from there personally and professionally, up until I left the Secret Service in 2019 to come to California and start my life over.
Wow. Nothing could ever prepare you for that. You wanted a job. You enjoy what you do. You pick that profession, and then having to, it's almost like start all over again and proving yourself. You got the job for a reason, because of who you are and your professionalism. And, up till that point, it was almost as if they set you back, and then you had to prove yourself again to get back up there. Wow. How did you pilot through that? What gave you strength? What gave you strength? Is it just I'm going to prove them wrong? I don't care. I'm powering through.
Yeah. And it's somewhat inherent in our community because we face the struggles that we do. And that's a blessing in disguise because we have that grit, we have that determination, because we're used to being, people don't give us the benefit of the doubt. And we just know we've got to prove ourselves a little bit harder than the rest. And I've done that all my career, and I continue to do that now as a supervisory special agent. I don't know, it just becomes kind of second nature for me. And I have my grandfather is my hero, my mentor, my idol, World War II, POW shut down over Germany, bronze medal recipient. And he was my everything growing up. And so I always had him in the back of my mind of, I'm going to do everything I can because of his legacy, make him proud. And he unfortunately passed in 2009. But still to this day, that plays a role in who I am and my identity and my work ethic. So I don't know, it just becomes part of who we are and working. I'm not saying everybody else doesn't work hard. They all absolutely work hard, but we've just got to go, it feels like just a little bit harder to make sure we prove our worth and that we're worthy of being here.
The way you wrote this book, it's kind of with a positive twist, sometimes a little amusing as the story goes along. You could have taken it from a totally different direction. And yeah, it could have been, negativity along the way. And when I say negativity, I mean the challenges that you had to overcome. How did you develop that writing style?
I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a writer by trade. I was a criminal justice major and a history major. And I don't know how that came to be, other than it's just my personality and, looking at these obstacles and always looking for a silver lining. I know it's cliche, but it's true. And even we have a toddler running around the house now. And the challenges that come with being a first-time parent, being a first-time parent in your 40s, a lot of us can identify with that, of just finding the positivity and trying to grow and learn from it, because that's all we can do. I don't live with regret. I don't live in the past. There's no benefit in doing that. We learn from it, we grow. We've just got to keep moving on. And that helps me do so. And so when I started writing, I was just trying to be authentic and writing the only way I knew how, which was through vulnerability, candidness, and hopefully a little bit of humor in there. I'm no Jerry Seinfeld, but I hope that's what came across.
I had a kid at 46. I get what you're saying. Right.
No walk in the park.
Yeah, I look back and like, how'd you pull that one off? I don't know. I had others before that, so first time, I don't know. That would have been maybe different at that age, but I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. Did you have fear in writing this book of how it would come out, or did you just, I'm going all in. This is it. Whatever happens, happens.
No, there was absolutely a lot of fear. When I sat down and started writing it in 2019, I just moved to Fresno. I was living there by myself with my dog, and it was hot, blazing hot in summer. And I just sat down and just started writing. I was writing about 1,000 words per hour, which is the tempo I still maintain to this day. And I just letting the thoughts flow, letting it come naturally. But also I was hyper aware that because of NDAs, I can't trash talk the Obamas, and I never would anyway. Mm-hmm. I can't go into depth about what I saw in the 2016 campaign or 2012 campaign. The dirt that we carry around, it's just because you're privy to that information, but that's also sacred to the organization itself and my peers who still do this work today. And so as I was writing, I was super aware that I was not going to make this a Secret Service tell-all. That is not at all what I wanted it to be, or thankfully it didn't come out that way. There was a whole lot of fear in making sure I was going about this the right way, because I didn't want to end up getting sued by anybody, one of our former protectees, or the Secret Service itself, or DHS. And also, is this going to tank my career moving forward? Because I'm still in the profession to this day. So yeah, I was terrified that what's this going to do to me? But I just was like, okay, this can help somebody else. Because in writing it, there was it was so cathartic for me, and I was crying at times while I worked through trauma in my own past. And so realizing, okay, this can probably help somebody else. And then Mark comes along and thankfully gives me a yes and the green light to help get this word out. And so I just said, screw it, we're going to roll with it and see what happens. And thankfully it's worked out.
On the campaign trail or in your career, but I'm going to be honest, I'm focusing, on that situation. No details whatsoever. But you personally, were there some things that you had to deal with? And I don't mean the president personally or anything like that, just broadly. Were there some things where you looked and this took my breath away. I can't believe this is happening. Just scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, without question, there was just stuff going on, and knowing I could not say a word about it.
Sure.
I couldn't write about it. I couldn't email it. I couldn't text it. And just knowing, because you bear witness, you're witnessing history in the making almost every day of your lives. Pope coming in town, I protected him and doing those advances, and the national security special events when Trump was inaugurated. And of course, throughout the campaign with he and Hillary. Yeah, you see a lot, and you can't go home and tell your spouse. You can't, because they're going to get on social media, and that's just the line of work. And you might get back and you cut up with your fellow agents and be like, hey, I know you saw that, right? But
wow. Did you ever feel that your personal security, and it comes with the job, I understand, but did you come to that point where you felt like your personal security was threatened, but you're just rolling with it?
Not really, because back to that onion, we had so many layers of other assistants with us, and smoke and mirrors was the term we would sometimes use, and doing a lead advance for Clinton in Haiti after the earthquake. those are perilous times, and you don't know what people are going to do, and you hope and pray as you're driving through tent cities at people who have nothing and are looking for food, and these dire circumstances, and you just hope and pray that your motorcade route is still safe and clean, and because you only have a set amount of assets with you as you travel throughout. And, I did a lead advance for Obama in Finland, and I don't speak the language. Obviously, I speak English. Of just hoping and praying that your counterparts are doing what they say they're going to be doing, and
Wow.
All that falls into place. And there is luck. Of course, the Secret Service does stellar work, but there's also a little bit of luck involved that, we're human. And you just hope that everybody else is doing what they have to be doing.
Right.
Or you're going to make international news for all the wrong reasons.
Amazing. Mark, you got this book. What was your first thought when you looked at the manuscript or even just the idea?
Well, you hear Cory talk about it, the tremendous weight of the job, like these monumental historical things that he's doing while going through an intensely personal situation at the same time. And I love the fact that he used the term grit, and that despite everything he had to go through, the prejudice, being called out for just being who he was, but also carrying the weight of protection, and all these incredibly heavy things, that you set your jaw, you grit your teeth, and you get it done. And I think that is a core value of the book. It's a fantastic story about an individual who does historically impressive things, but also goes through an intensely personal experience. And I like we've talked about it before, that the catharsis of writing a book, of getting out all your emotions on the page. And if you do that correctly, other people are going to respond to it. Other people are going to have the exact same reaction. And I think with Cory's book, we've seen that multiple occasions. So that's what spoke to me. Like here's this historical person working in these historical events, these huge names, most powerful people on the planet, and yet this individual is going through what they're going through at the same time, and they get the job done, and they come out on the other side, and it's quite brilliant.
There's many themes in this book. Especially, let's say you were younger, you got bullied. Maybe you weren't gay, but you can relate to not fitting in at the hands of somebody else for no reason whatsoever. I feel there's some relatability for all of us in this book. I feel many of us have been in certain situations. Again, yours is, especially in this job, and just the fact that you had to keep some things secret about your personal life, and you are a Secret Service agent. At what point did you decide, I got to start my life over? When you left that position with the Secret Service, did you feel that was good? That was my past. It was a wonderful opportunity. Most people don't even come close to anything like that in terms of their job. But did you feel clean slate now once you left?
Yeah, it was not a decision I took lightly, and I fought with it for several years. So I ended up back to just a little bit of when my now ex-husband and I, there was an admission that he didn't want children. And we were going through adoption process, updating paperwork when I was then living in DC. And so that to me was the straw that, okay, this was always a deal breaker for me. And we were 10 years in a relationship. And at that point, I became married to my job, and I started traveling 3 years straight of like 30 trips a year with the Obamas, and like this insane tempo because I buried myself in my work. And so I just knew, if I'm going to start over, if I'm going to achieve this ultimate goal of having a family, I can't keep doing this. There's just no feasible way. And so eventually I got a job offer in Fresno with the U.S. Treasury Department in 2019, or I guess tail end of 2018 is when I got the offer. And I just knew, no, do I want to move to Fresno? No. But at the time, it was the only offer. And I said, I've got to take, it's my only chance. It's my only out. I've got to go and just see what happens. And so I pulled up, and I didn't know a soul, and drove across the country with the dog and just started over. And because that ultimate goal of having a family was always something I was just unwilling to settle for not doing that. And though it took me up until June of last year to have our first child, 100% worth it. And I'm still in close touch with my former peers. I actually saw them and met with Obama here in San Francisco just a couple of months ago. It's this picture behind my is very recent. So I still keep in contact with them, and they all know about the book. And I was super exhaled a lot after they read it, and they gave me their honest feedback. Like, wow, you did a really great job of like protecting the core of like the Secret Service, and it's not a tell-all, and you did it so well. And that was like the highest of compliments I could receive is from my peers, because they're the ones who can call you out. And so
they know. Yeah. Your title, the title of the book says it all, Breaking Free. You broke free from that life, that situation, because it didn't serve and support you anymore. I admire you. You have a lot of courage. First of all, to be in the Secret Service, that takes, piles of courage right there. But also to get to a point, your life, your standards, this is what I want. And I'm going to leave this behind, even though this was great in some regards. And just to start all over with, with your dog and a new job. There's a lot there in that book too, to really understand that, you made that change. You could have stayed with the Secret Service if you wanted. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I was set to rotate to Trump's detail that fall. So I would have stayed without a question. I wouldn't have just quit had I not got the job offer. But then thankfully that didn't happen, because I wouldn't have my family, because I met my now husband 2 weeks after I moved to San Francisco. And then the COVID hit and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I absolutely would have stayed. I loved the job. It was unlike anything else. The pressures, the stresses, the camaraderie is unmatched, equating to like military members, because they are your family. It's all you know. And your the bond is just amazing.
They got to have your back. They got to have your back and yours of theirs in that situation. Final question. What was the pinnacle point where you decided I need to break free? What was the one thing that just made that decision for you? I'm sure it was marinating all up into that point. You amassed yourself in your work, 3 years of traveling and all of that. Was there one moment where you just, that's it, I'm done, I'm moving on?
I think it goes back to like I said, it culminated over the years, but like it all went back to wanting to have children and wanting to be a father. And so like my final trip with the Secret Service was to the Grammys with Michelle. And then when she walks out on stage with Alicia Keys and Lady Gaga, and I'm backstage with Ricky Martin and BTS, and I'm like, this is insane. And this is a beautiful end to my career. It's my final trip. And so it all culminated in that, which it was just, I literally had goosebumps as I'm on stage left, as she goes out on stage. The place erupts, and I had witnessed her transcend the office of the First Lady into this icon that she is today. And she affected so many people through her book tour. And it was just such a beautiful end to that career that I could have asked for a better bow tie.
People say that things happen for a reason. Do you feel it in your whole life? It kind of did. You did your time in the military, Secret Service. You wanted to have children. Your partner at the time, even though you were going down that road, revealed that. You leave that job, and then you travel by yourself cross country, and then you meet who you're with now 2 weeks in. Do you think it was all kind of the way it was supposed to be in some regards?
Yeah. And I met my now husband on a cruise in the middle of off the coast of Mexico, of like the most random of places you're going to meet somebody in a party environment. And that's when you bump into like the part where you weren't looking at all. And I was there to have a great time and party by drinking a lot. And then it just happens. So yeah, it does. I don't know how else to describe it other than how you just did.
Yeah. Wow. What a journey. and it continues now in a little form.
For sure.
and diapers and cribs.
Yes.
Mark, when it came to even editing this book, was there a lot to do? I mean, it's the first time that Cory's ever written a book.
Not really. you want to make sure a book like this is authentic and it tells a story that the author wants to tell. So we don't want to mess around with it too much. And again, it was polished when we got to it. So it's again our responsibility to do it justice, put it in a format that is readable, that the author approves of, can be proud of. And again, with his story, it's such a fantastic story. To change it in any way would to diminish it and diminish him as an author, which is something we would never do.
I want to reveal here, because it's the first time and we've had many authors that you've worked with, Mark, on with us, but I found out just seconds before we jumped on here that Cory and Mark never met, like on a video screen. They never even saw each other. And this amazing book got published. Would it have made a difference? I don't know, but I think that just speaks volumes for how the process and the rhythm and the synergy all goes together. Is it sometimes like that for you, Mark, when you're working with others?
Yeah. Maybe I could have gave some parental advice, being an older parent on myself, about diapers and cribs and whatnot. But a lot of it, you get a sense when you read someone's book, a sense of who they are. And with Cory's book, it came through. And I'm very happy to meet him now. But I think I had an understanding of who he was and what he wanted out of that book when I read it. And I think that's part of the mystery and the wonder of doing what we do, is to meet people like Cory and help them get their book out to the public.
Thank you both for today. Such insight. Cory, thank you for your service and everything you've done. And thank you for an amazing book. If it was just about the Secret Service and that journey, that would be just fine. But just to add your challenges and struggles, I think there's a piece of us in there along the way. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to be gay and deal with the challenges you dealt with, but just wanting to belong, wanting to be accepted. I think the rhythm is there in the book. Final thought here today, as a new parent, and you hear this all the time, and everybody always said this to me, but savor every moment. It's true. I mean, this is my daughter. Just came up in a Facebook memory with a protein bar all over her face, and it was like yesterday, but you barely even remember it. So yeah, every moment. And I'm sure, Mark, you got kids too. It's such a cliche like that. Amazing. 15, 17, 20 years can go by just like that.
Years are short, but the days are long.
I'm not going to forget that. Thank you both for today. Check it out, nfbpublishing.com. Details on Cory's book, and also if you want to become published. Both of you, thank you for today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.